grace and mercy, Jesus Christ has saved us. Grace means that you and I get what we don't deserve. Mercy means that you and I don't get what we deserve. You and I deserve death and hell. Jesus did not. Jesus conquered death so that we might live. We have to believe in him, trust in him, and then he changes us, and we no longer love our sin. And then what that does is we begin to see the world the way that he does. So right now, babies are walked into that facility and murdered. And God, when he did the rainbow in the sky, I saw a rainbow today. I don't know if you saw it earlier. Did you see the rainbow earlier today? It was beautiful in the sky. That rainbow was a reminder of when God flooded the earth in judgment. He flooded the earth because of our sin, and he said, do not murder because mankind is made in my image. God is a God of justice. He has judged the earth once for our sins against him, for our sins against other humans. Man, please do not go in there. You hear the message that I'm preaching. Please stay away from this place. But in that Noah, that rainbow moment, when we see the rainbow, we get to be reminded that there's judgment from God on the earth. He's done it once, and he promises to do it again. But God, being rich in mercy, does not give us what we deserve. So there's a passage too that says in Timothy, Jesus Christ came to save sinners. So what I'm talking about is sin. And those who sin are called sinners. And that's true of all humanity. For all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. Since we all have sinned, we are all in a position where the just judge of the world would find us guilty. But the merciful God sent Jesus Christ to die so that we might live. Now, how would you feel if you saw someone die to save your life right in front of you? Someone came up to shoot you or to attack you, and someone jumped in front of that body and took that penalty for you. You would rejoice, and you would follow them, and you would be so thankful for the gift of life that they had given you. That's what Jesus Christ has done for us. Hey, buddy. What? Because the IUD will end a pregnancy.
Yeah? I'm trying to have life. I'm trying to have babies, and I convinced her to get rid of the IUD, and she's getting rid of it right now.
Well, I mean, I would tell you that I'm thankful to hear that she's getting rid of it. I would say there's better places to entrust your body to than a place that will kill babies.
Yeah.
I mean, that just tells you how much they're just an enemy of God. What about you? Are you a Christian?
Yeah, I'm a Christian. Yeah.
Yeah? Like, are you from around here?
No. I was born and raised in Alaska, Anchorage, Alaska.
Okay.
And I grew up in the East Coast.
Okay.
My teenager years.
Yeah. So do you live around here now?
Yep.
Oh, okay. You live in Grants Pass now.
Yep.
So are you going to a church here in town now?
Yeah, Redwood.
The country church or the Christian church out by the highway?
The Christian church out by the highway.
Yep. Okay. So I'm just curious. Have you heard your church talk about abortion? Call it murder? Has that come up lately in your conversation? You have?
Yeah.
Your pastor has said that?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Do you mind if I ask, what has he said?
He said that life should not be taken away, and that women that just like decide to get rid of life, that's a miracle that's given to you. It's a sin and stuff like that. And he was basically giving out examples and stuff like that, and how to do what's right by Jesus and Jesus Christ, and not I don't know how to I'm a little tired.
No, I hear you.
Yeah, I was on a flight to Atlanta, Georgia.
Oh, you just got back?
Yeah,
so jet lag, you're East Coast, you're 3 hours later right now? Yeah.
I'm super tired. But
Can I ask, did he use the word murder? Did he call it murder?
yes.
Oh, he did?
Yes.
Okay, that's good to hear. It's
Yes.
good to hear. That's a line that a lot of Christians are not crossing right now.
Yeah, no, but it's a thing and stuff like that. And for the longest time, like my girlfriend's a Christian too, and she kept that like a secret from me. But
Kept what a secret?
like the IUD.
Oh, the IUD thing. Mm-hmm.
And then when I found out,
Ma'am, can I give you this? Okay. So what do you think about being good enough to go to heaven? Are you good enough to go to heaven?
I think so.
You think so?
Yeah.
Can I ask, what standard would you use for that to be good enough to stand before God?
By doing what's right and by having God in your heart and talking to God.
Okay.
And asking Him for forgiveness and praying for Him and praying for Him to give us strength and just do good things by Him and follow the Bible.
Do you believe in hell?
Yeah.
Do you believe in a hell?
Yeah.
Why would you say people go to hell?
I would say people go to hell because they make bad choices and they don't generally think before they do these bad choices. Hence, there's murders, there's rapists, and etc. etc. Those are, for example, they choose these lifestyles, and that's it's a sin. And if you keep doing it, you don't end up in a good place because you're not asking for forgiveness or you're not changing your ways, and that's what makes you go to that place.
Are you familiar with the 10 Commandments? Do you know them very well?
I don't know them very well.
There's a list. You tend to learn them as a kid.
Yeah.
Because the Bible will talk about sin in a couple different ways, but one way that it talks about it is called transgression of the law. So basically, it just means breaking God's law. The book of James would say that if you break one of God's law, you're considered a lawbreaker. You're a criminal. You've broken God's law. Even if you just broken one, makes you guilty of them all, is what it say in the book of James. So do you mind if I ask you a couple questions?
Yeah.
So we use the 10 Commandments of God because that is the holy, righteous standard that he holds us to. Jesus Christ, you might have heard this phrase, he says, I did not come to abolish or destroy or to get rid of the law. I did not come to get rid of the law. I came to fulfill it. I came to accomplish it. So that means the law is still on top of us. John 3:16, you've heard John 3:16, for God so loved the world?
Yep.
So later in the Gospel of John at the end, it says that if you do not believe and obey the Son of Jesus Christ, that means the wrath of God remains upon you. So humanity walks around with the wrath of God upon them. So here's the good person test is what we call it. So one of the commandments would be, have you ever told a lie?
Okay.
Have you ever told a lie?
Yes.
Yeah. So, have you ever stolen anything in your life? Taken anything that didn't belong to you? Maybe even cheated on a test? Just that kind of an idea. Have you ever done something like that?
Yeah.
Most of us have done a little bit. I'm not a kleptomaniac. I don't go around and steal a bunch of things. But I've been guilty of taking things that didn't belong to me and just maybe not having integrity in some areas of my life. Okay. So, if you're guilty of lying and guilty of stealing, what would you be called? If you lie, what are you called?
A liar.
A liar. And if you steal, what do you call?
A thief.
Yeah. So a lying thief, by your own confession. Have you ever murdered anybody?
No.
No. That's good. All right. Jesus, Sermon on the Mount, Matthew chapter 5, he talks about God's ability to pierce into our heart and to evaluate our condition. And he says, if you've ever been angry at someone, called them a fool, had hatred towards another person made in the image of God, that means you're guilty of murder. So have you ever been angry at another person? Had anger towards them or called them names ever in your life, even when you were younger?
Yeah.
So what would that make you guilty of? So what would Jesus say that makes you guilty of?
Hatred.
Murder.
Oh, yeah.
Is the word. Yeah. So this is one I kind of already know the answer to. So are you familiar with what Jesus has to say about lust? Hey, buddy, can you hold this for me? Thanks. Do you know what Jesus would say about lust?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a sin if you're not married.
Yeah. So would you be guilty of having sex with someone you're not married to?
Yes.
I know what an IUD is meant for. Jesus, you know how he says if you hate people, you're guilty of murder? He also says that if you have lust and sexual activity, it makes you guilty of adultery. So those 4 things, if you were to stand before God today and he was to pull out the law, we've only looked at 4 of them, and he said, what's your name?
Michael.
Michael? Hi, Michael. I'm Ryan. And he would say, hi, Jim. And he would look at you and say, Michael, you are...
I'm Jim. Nice to meet you, Jim.
By your own confession right now, the mirror of the law of God reflecting your heart, you're a lying, thieving, murderer, adulteress at heart. Okay, these are the things that you're guilty of. If that's what God used to judge you, to go to heaven or hell, would you go to heaven or hell? I guess the first question, that's the innocent or guilt. If God used the law and charged you with it, would you be found guilty or innocent if he judged you by that law?
I'd say innocent, because